So Velma had some of the most unlikable characters we've seen in Scooby-Doo. It would have been nice if they had just made their own show, but I guess they couldn't get the name recognition otherwise. That being said, I thought some of the characters were treated very unfairly, and they honestly deserve to be in a better show. Some of these characters include Gigi, Sophie, and Fred. In my opinion, these characters weren't treated fairly by the narrative. For example, Sophie is pretty much exclusively treated as a homewrecker or the other woman. It's understandable that Velma is upset about her dad remarrying, especially since she thinks her mom disappeared because she was kidnapped, which does turn out to be the case, but that also took 2 years to find out. But Amon genuinely believed that Dia walked out on them. They make it clear that their marriage was struggling, and both of them were miserable. Sophie did have a crush on Amon, but they never acted on it until Dia already left. And despite the fact that Velma's always been pretty mean to her, Sophie does go out of her way to be nice and helpful. She even saved Velma's life. When she was having a panic attack that could possibly stop her heart, she was able to bring her out of it and calm her down. She's supportive of Velma and tries to give her advice when she's accused of murder so she can avoid going to jail. She also said that she admired Velma and wanted her daughter Amanda to grow up to be just like her, on the inside specifically. This series likes to ruin sentimental moments by having cut downs, but still. Anyway, when Dia does come back, they beat up on her a lot, like openly insulting and belittling her. Velma goes out of her way to break Amanda's stuff and also burn Sophie's stuff. They steal her baby so that way they can pretend that it's Velma's instead of hers. And then at the end, they kick her out of the house. They don't seem concerned at all that she has a baby, and they might not have anywhere else to go. Also, isn't Amon paying for the house? I don't think they have the right to kick them out. They also played a mean prank on her earlier in the series, where they stole Amanda out of her crib, just so they could watch Sophie freak out. This was all pretty harsh, especially considering the fact that she's a new mom. Then there's Gigi, another original character to this show. For the first 4 episodes, she's a minor character. She's one of the hot girls that Daphne is friends with, but then she decides to change her look in order to be more true to herself, which would be cool if she hadn't been inspired by Velma. She doesn't really deserve any credit, but Gigi starts dating Norville, which looks great because he's had a crush on Velma this entire time, but she's been really mean to him, pretty much only using him even though it's clear that Norville cares about her a lot, so it looks like he's getting over her and moving on. Gigi is very supportive. She goes out of her way to engage in his interests, like when she joined band because Norville made it sound fun, and it's something they can do together, but it becomes clear that Norville is still really hung up on Velma, and also really insecure, to the point where it feels like he's using Gigi. He also got called a simp and a beta too many times, so he tries to adopt a bad boy persona, which causes him to ignore Gigi completely. I understand there were a lot of strong personalities in his life, but doing a 180 like this was not the answer. She asked him to mend her pants which had ripped, but he ends up throwing them away because he didn't want anyone telling him what to do. So Gigi goes digging through the trash to find her pants, but she ends up getting stung by a bee, and she's allergic, so she almost dies. And Norville wasn't there for her because he was too busy trying to prove to himself that he wasn't a beta. Norville felt self-conscious because Gigi was making decisions for him, but Norville could have talked to her. She didn't want him to stand up for himself, so he could have tried to prove that, instead of just completely ignoring her, and also throwing away her pants instead of just giving them back to her, saying that he wasn't going to do it. It just seems like this could have been avoided. He tries to make it up to her by getting them crowned king and queen at Fog Festival, but it soon becomes obvious that he's desperate to win the crown because of his feelings towards Velma, since she ignored him all the time, and he's projecting those feelings onto Gigi.
Norval, please! Being Fog Queen isn't that important to me.
You're only saying that because you're so damaged by being sent to voicemail by Velma, me, that you don't think you deserve a crown. But you do deserve a crown.
He doesn't listen to her and ends up ignoring her all night, going full steam ahead on his own schemes, including pushing a child off the pier, which could have been very dangerous, and he would have done that to Gigi, but she walked away. The two end up reconciling, which is good, but they still have problems with communication, like when Norville invites Velma and Daphne to Gigi's cabin in the woods, since he didn't tell her he was bringing them, and she only invited him. This leads to an awkward moment and a fight. He didn't actually tell her that the killer was in the area, which just adds to her stress, since she could be a possible target. Norville tells her that she's probably not at the top of that list because Daphne and his own mother are hotter than she is, since the killer is targeting hot girls specifically, which is a really messed up thing to say to your girlfriend. Can you imagine if she said that her dad was hotter than he was? He probably wouldn't take it well. Anyway, because of all this fighting, they end up getting stuck in a ravine, and all this could have been avoided if they just communicated. But also Norville just isn't being fair to Gigi, and to top it all off, when the cave collapses on top of them, he protects Velma, and and not her, basically solidifying that he isn't over Velma and he cares about her more than Gigi, so they ultimately break up. Afterwards, Gigi ends up becoming more of a minor character, with only one major scene. Despite the breakup and everything that happened, it's pretty obvious that she still cares for Norville, and is disappointed that things turned out the way they did, but we don't really get that from Norville. Norville had a good thing with Gigi, but he didn't appreciate her at all, but he ran back to Velma as soon as she gave him attention. He really does put her before everything in his life, which is a shame. He can and did do better, and Gigi definitely deserved better. I hope she can move on from this, and find someone who will genuinely value her. At least she didn't get her brain removed and put into a dog like that rumor was saying. That has to count for something. The last character I want to talk about is Fred, who's been a part of this franchise since day one. They try to use Fred for social commentary about things like male and white privilege, and I'm not sure if we're even supposed to like Fred in this series, since they go out of his way to make him obnoxious, but it feels a little forced. Plus, his life really sucks. His parents are abusive in multiple ways, like physically where his dad puts his cigars out on him, and emotionally due to all the neglect he's suffered. They also just didn't raise him well. The show tries to make Fred out to be very entitled and rude, but then there are moments where he acts polite, but then his parents get upset about it.
Now first, thank you for taking my case. We could not be happier you're on the team, Velma's dad. Sorry, what we meant to say is that you are our last choice, and if you blow this, my family will bring the full weight of Jones Gentleman's Accessories and Jones Gentleman's Accessories for Women down on your head!
Scenes like this seem to imply that his behavior isn't really coming from a place of malice, but instead trying to live up to his parents' expectations, and unfortunately his parents demand that he be aggressive and rude. It's pretty obvious they don't care about Fred. They even insist they'll kick him out of the house if he doesn't win the Fog King crown, which is really just a popularity contest. So the show tries to set up Fred as this character who has no problems, everything's always easy for him, he gets handed everything, but then they show us something very different, which ends up causing a contradiction. Like they say as a rich white man, he should be able to get away with murder, no problem.
If I were a rich white dude, I'd kill everybody just to get away with it.
But then he's falsely accused and convicted of murder. It's pretty brutal too. The cops come in guns blazing and shoot him through both legs, which wasn't remotely necessary. He's constantly being humiliated, including having pictures taken of his naked body that are now public, and everybody body shames him. And it gets to a point where you can't really help but feel sorry for him. On top of all of that, his mom wants him dead, which literally comes out of nowhere. His parents are concerned that he's too incompetent to take over the family business, despite the fact that he's still a kid, and they have plenty of time to teach him. I can understand them being concerned if he was like 25 and had no interest in running the business and was just partying, but not now. And even if that were the case, I still think cutting out his brain and replacing it with somebody else's is so extreme and unnecessary, especially when it's revealed that she has the ability to hypnotize anybody to do anything, and she could just hypnotize him into acting the way she wants. But no, she has to cut out his brain. What a weird plot twist. The worst part is Fred really does try to improve himself and take steps to be responsible so he can eventually take over the business, but his parents just don't care. They have their mindset, especially his mom, who now just wants to get rid of him. Fred's also the only character that actually had a character arc. At the start of the series, he's rude and insensitive, but throughout the season, whether because of outside forces or him genuinely trying to change as a person, he takes a lot of steps in the right direction to better himself, and that's not really the case for the others. Norville started the season as a simp and ends it as a simp. Daphne didn't change much either, and she also ends the season simping for Velma. And the plot with her family didn't amount to anything. It was so Velma could get this one clue handed to her. And as for Velma herself, well, she twerked over Fred's mom's corpse. I don't think there's much hope for her. Fred had the most genuine growth, but he was also punished the most, and he didn't really deserve that. I'm glad at the end of the season he goes off on his own. It's great that he can be more independent and have separation from his awful parents. I think it's the only way he'll have a chance. There is a season 2 planned, unfortunately, but hopefully things will go better for these characters. Although my expectations aren't high, this series is unnecessarily mean, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just kept going normal as usual. But that's my opinion. What do you guys think? Were there any characters you thought deserved better? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our members: Stutania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, The Rabbit Mancer, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JBR, Hussyman42, Nixel, Eric Griffin, Phil C, Taylor Ramirez, Caleb Nelson, Bandito Bane, Dakari the Professor, Equestron, Norman Sweetcream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Garcia XV Legend, Hunter Rose, Dash Hound, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Lil, Miranda Sinistra, Butcher 7 Actual, Kitsune Fiora, Felix Spam, Soundboy00, and Owen Wildish. Thank you all so much for your support, and if you'd like to support the channel as a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this content, you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.